This is the second part of my interview with actor, writer, director Michael Garland. In this part of the interview, we talk about Michael's experiences working as a stand-up comedian in the 1970s and also his experiences working in pantomime.
And one of the things I think I told you before was the fact that when I left drama school, my biggest problem was stage fright.
Oh, okay.
I had dreadful nervousness. And so I became a stand-up because I was so nervous.
I think I'd forgotten this about you. Okay. You became a stand-up.
Because I was so nervous about performing on stage that I decided that the only way to deal with this is a kill or cure. So I actually wrote a whole load of stand-up, all those one-up plays you've seen me do, you know. Well, you haven't seen me do them, but you've read them. All those monologues I used to do, some of which are stand-up, some of which aren't. And I would perform those on my own in pubs, anywhere. Okay. Whether they knew it or whether they didn't, I would do them. And that basically, over a period of 6 years, got rid of my stage fright.
Wow. So let me just zone in on that for a second. So you would write monologues, comic monologues, and some were more stand-up than others. And you would perform them by yourself, not in a comedy club situation. You by yourself in a pub somewhere.
Yes. I did it all around England.
Wow. Okay.
Because I was terrified.
Yeah. Wow. That would do it for me. That would stop me from doing it, I think.
And I have to get over being terrified.
Wow.
So I did that for about 5 years until I stopped being terrified.
Wow. And did you ever find some sort of success? Did you ever get paid for this?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was very good at it. Oh, yeah, don't get me wrong. I got very good at it. My monologues were brilliant. And
you do say so yourself.
Well, people would ask me back, put it that way.
Right.
So I would go to strange villages in Upper Mornington, come Witham, or wherever we were, and they go, "We like good people here." And I would do the piece, and they would look at me, and there'd be total silence when I finished. I went, "Oh, Christ." and then they go, "So, when are you coming back?"
Oh, wow.
You know, yes, it worked. Because I'd rehearsed the pieces within an inch of their lives. I knew exactly how they worked. The thing that worried me was the nerves.
Yes.
And just by doing it again and again and again and again and again, in completely different situations where I constantly had to think on my feet, you know, where half the set didn't turn up or whether the set didn't fit or whatever it was, over a period of 10 years, I just got over stage fright.
Wow.
Because you're doing, do you know what I mean? Because you're doing it in a different situation. Every time was different. Every time was new. Every time was odd. They were peculiar. They weren't expected. And I remember doing what I thought was an evening of practice either at an afternoon tea, and these old people said, and they were expecting me to do sing-along. That, you know, so there were many of them that didn't work.
Yeah.
You know, there were a whole bunch of them that went horribly wrong.
Yeah. Wow.
And then there were others that were absolutely brilliant. And that just taught me to be confident in who I was doing, you know.
Yeah.
Get what you're doing right, you know. And that's the big thing I've always had now when I direct and when I'm with people is you know what you're doing. So, you know, you don't interfere with what other people are doing. What they're doing is fine. If you don't like it, that's a separate issue. You can discuss about that. But what you don't do is go, I don't like your performance.
Right.
You know, because you're working on your own performance and you're getting that right. And as long as that works, what they're doing is none of your business.
Right.
And yet there are so many people that will go, oh, I don't think you're doing that right. Really? Tough. You know?
Yeah.
Bugger off.
Yeah.
You know, not your business. And it's taken me this 40 years, 45 years, to go, don't care.
Yeah.
You know,
you have to, though.
You're not paid to worry about my performance.
Right.
And if you're in the shows that aren't being paid, it's not their business anyway.
Yeah.
So, you just go and you just go, oh, I'm so sorry, and move on. But when I was younger, everybody kept telling me how to do things.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear that. I've heard that, yeah.
And you were going, no, you're doing this right, you're not feeling this, you're not doing that. And you went, some of the advice I got was very good. And, and you went, oh, that's good. And it wasn't that I was being temperamental. Some of the advice was really interesting, but other was not, and it was detrimental.
Right. Because everybody's a critic, though, right? Everybody can do it.
Everybody's a critic. And I remember a really nice woman who said, I love your performance. You're not thinking to the last syllables. And I went, it took me about 5 years to work out what that meant. And I now absolutely know exactly what she meant.
Right.
And she's right. Absolutely right. Because you've got, I finished now, and you just drop the sentence fractionally before you finish.
Yes.
You hear lots of actors do it. They've got, okay, I've got the end of this, it's the end of the big speech, I'm going to drop it now.
You just abandon it.
You've got 4 more words to go. Come on.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
I do, yeah.
And they disappear. And it's interesting, she was, she's very good about things like that. And she also came up with a very lovely quote to me, and she said, I don't think you totally understand the difference between your public and private versions of your character.
Wow. Okay.
And I went, which means? I said, which means? She said, how are you with immediate members of your family and non-immediate members of your family? Are you the same? Are you different? What is it? And if you are different, what is that difference?
Right.
And I went, oh, yes, I see. This is very interesting. Because, of course, it's to do with how much you reveal and who you reveal it to. Are you only revealing it to the audience, or do people who live with know something? For example, if you're Yago, how much does Amelia know?
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And if so, how much does she know?
Yeah. And also in life, I think we're always different with different people, aren't we?
Indeed. And this is a very interesting point. And I found this fascinating. And it's odd because everyone considers me a very, I'm not considered to be the most subtle actor in the world because, of course, I do panto.
Yeah.
But actually, what I do is very sharp, it's very clean. If you watch my performances, as in the designs I send you, you'll notice when I perform panto, there's always a black line around them, as in a cartoon.
Black line around what?
In my performance, to make it sharp,
I see.
There's always an imaginary black line around it against the background.
Right.
To stand it out. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Whereas in plays, you can't do that.
Right.
Plays are plays, but in panto or in restoration or in, even to a degree in wild, but you put a black line around it.
Right, you do an outline.
It sharpens it up.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a bit sharper. It's just a bit, tighter. It's just a bit more Disney because people need to see exactly what you're doing. And also, again, in panto, I think, sometimes in wild, but certainly in panto, you're doing a series of tableaus. You do a tableau, then you do another tableau, then you do another tableau. And the movement between the tableaus is very quick. Whereas in plays, you don't see that. It all molds.
Right.
But in sharp plays, in restoration, in panto, it all goes sharp, 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 sharp. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so, yes.
So that you see tablets, you see pictures, and people make these shapes, and then they make another shape, and then they make another, and the meld between it is quite short.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in proper plays, you can still do the same thing, but the meld is much more, much longer, it's much wider, it's much more amorphous, because you don't, for example, if you're doing Ibsen, that's not what you want at all. But nonetheless, it will work. But if you're going to do that, I'm the sun, the sun. If you're going to do all that stuff, it needs to come out of, it cannot, as in panto or as in restoration or as in even Shakespeare, it cannot come out of nowhere, it has to come out of somewhere. So you have to have kind of done that slowly. But in panto, it can go straight, it's like cartoon.
Mm. So
panto is fundamentally cartoon.
Yes. So just a quick question before we move on, because I want to talk to you about panto. How then, you were talking about doing essentially a black line or an outline of your character. How do you go about doing that? Is it just being very technical?
Well, okay, there's two ways of doing this. Yes, of course it's technical, but of course you know the character backwards, sideways, inside out.
Right.
I've played Sheriff or Merlin or whoever I've played on and off for the last 20 years. So I know them very well. It doesn't matter what the dialogue is, the character is the same.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I got him. It's not me that's the worry, it's the lines. And this is why, with certain panto editions, they get terribly annoyed with me, because I look at them and I go, no, I wouldn't say that. Sometimes I do that. It's not a plot thing. It's not I'm saying I wouldn't do that. I'm saying I wouldn't say that.
Right.
And they go, what do you mean? I say, no, it's just too crass. It's just too crass. Let's soften it a bit. This man's got style. I always think, for example, that Abernathy or the Sheriff of Nottingham has huge style. They might be vile, but they have style.
Yes.
So they can't say crap dialogue. So if I get given crap dialogue, I won't say it. I change it to something else.
And how does that go?
It's interesting. You come to rehearsal and go, do you mind if I just change you this? And the director goes, initially he goes, okay. And then you do it, and they go, oh, that's quite nice, isn't it? Do you want to cut a bit more? And then he's just eager to cut loads more out, because you could say so much more with so much less dialogue.
Yeah.
And so he's going, can we cut this? I mean, yeah. And they love me because I don't mind dialogue being cut. If it doesn't work, if it's crap dialogue, I will cut it.
Yeah.
Cut it. Fine. Absolutely, that's rubbish. Let's cut.
And then you just get on with it, right?
And then they love it when I put in really weird lines. And I go, well, let's do this. And I say, can I say this? And they go, will it work? And I say, well, we'll try it and see performances. If it does get a laugh, we'll scrap it. And last year, I remember the director saying, I don't understand this line at all, but you could have it if you like. I understand it rhythmically, I understand it linguistically. I just don't know why you're doing it. And I used to say to the princess, come with me, pom-pom, upon the pinnacle of my pagoda.
Okay.
And the audience found it hysterical, because it's mad. And it also shows, I always said it shows that by that point Abernathy had gone completely loopy.
Right.
He was gone. And the director said, oh, I think that's a bit too OTT, we're only talking about it here. But nonetheless, he let me do it.
Mm-hmm.
And we kept it in. And, I was allowed to say it was nonsense because it worked.
Right.
Whether I'll do it out again, I don't know. I'm not doing it this year, so we'll find out. But,
So I've got a question for you. When was your first panto? Was it straight out of drama school?
I can't remember. No, I think the very first panto I did was in 1976 or 77, I cannot recall, and it was in Frank Highfield, and I went up and did Babes in the Wood, which is a panto I've done a lot.
Yep.
And I did it with Frank Highfield, and no one else was particularly famous. Frank Highfield, there were a couple of very famous musical comics, Ken Roberts, and I cannot remember the name of the day, I can see it, but I can't remember. We both ended up in Last of the Summer Wine.
Oh.
But it was that point, you've got to remember this was middle 70s, that I was working with genuine musical comics. And I got asked if I would become part of a group called Dumart and Denzer, who were a flying skeleton act. So I played Little John, King Richard Lionheart, and Dumart and Denzer. I worked with Dumart and Denzer, and with Dumart and Denzer, I was a flying skeleton.
Wow, okay.
And that was fab.
And that's a lot of Black's work, right? So you're all in
Black.
Black.
Black's work. Oh, yeah. And we started rehearsals at the beginning of November, and we finished the pantomime on the 1st of April.
Wow. That's a long run.
Long bloody run. Long bloody run. I did 2 shows like that. No, 3. I did Sunderland, Bristol, and Edinburgh like that. And in the old days, that's how pantos worked. And then I went abroad, and when I came back, pantos weren't like that anymore.
How long were you abroad for then?
A year. Only
wow.
a year. But it had all changed.
Wow. And that,
yeah.
So that first panto, Babes in the Wood. Yeah. Sorry, just so I'm clear, you were doing the Black's skeleton work in that show, or was that separate?
Yeah.
So you had the whole ultraviolet light and all that sort of jazz.
Ultraviolet light, all sorts of tricks.
Right. Because we had something similar. We did. I told you before that we did. I was in the Bar Humbug, which is a panto version of Christmas Carol. Did that a few years ago, and there was a sequence in like that in that show.
Well, we had the costumes that we were given were bathed in some kind of chemical, so that we used to have to sit in this light for about 20 minutes before we went on stage.
Oh wow!
And then we sat in this room. And then we went on and did it. There were also 14 dancers, and they would take our fingers off and our hands off. It was a tremendous act.
The costumes you were using for the Blacks and the skeleton work had chemicals that had to be activated. Is that right?
It's a very long time ago. I mean, we're talking 1977. I have no idea because they wouldn't tell us how it worked. It was a very deep secret. It's been the same act for years and 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 years. Now, I'll tell you, Gladys Dumart was a Cochrane young lady. Now, you look them up. Now, Cochrane young ladies were in the revues in the theatres in London in the 1920s.
Wow.
And she was the last one. And she was about 87 when I worked with her.
And how are you spelling that? Is that Cochrane?
Cochrane, Cochrane, Cochrane. He did these huge reviews in London. Now, she was a Cochrane young lady, and the skeleton act was very famous. And it was famous all the way through the 30s and the 40s and the 50s and the 60s. And I was in the very early part of the 70s, and it was just, as it were, on its final legs. All those strange musical acts I still worked with.
Wow.
But of course, music hall was dying, and they were still there, but only just. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, as my understanding is, in the US, it was pretty much over. It was more burlesque, vaudeville.
Yeah,
first,
burlesque came in the early 50s, didn't it? And burlesque killed vaudeville.
Yeah.
And the point was that music hall staggered through. And what they tried to do, and if you've seen films, you'll see, they tried to combine musical with the Beatles or, they would put them in.
Yeah.
And it didn't work. And and it sort of killed it. And of course, the point was that television killed it in as much that if you were somebody like Morecambe and Wise or whoever it was, you had routines. But the point was that on theatre, you only needed 2,
Yes.
3 routines. Once you got onto television, you needed millions. And this was a jump that most of them couldn't make.
Right.
Most of them couldn't make. I mean, most of them were a single act gag.
Yeah.
And they went round from theatre to theatre to theatre. And when they came back to the same theatre again, it was 5 years later.
Yes.
Everybody went, oh, that's lovely to see them again. You know, I remember
Right.
seeing you last time. How lovely. Television killed that. And suddenly it was all doing it much, 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 much faster.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, all those glorious, insane Pavlov puppets, interestingly enough, were a group that I worked with 3 times.
Pavlov's puppets.
And I worked with them first. I can't remember the first theatre I worked with them. The second theatre I worked with them was the Bristol Hipstone, and I did Bates in the Wood with Tim Davidson in the very late 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did a mammoth jump, and at the beginning of about 1990, I suddenly got called in to redirect a production of Aladdin, I think, and they're bloody Pavlov puppets. You know, and I went, it's the same bloody people. And they're the people that shared the dressing room next door to me, you know. And I
Yeah.
go, oh my God, hello, Brenda. You know, and she's going, oh, it's very odd, you know. So how they kept going, and the act hadn't changed at all. It's exactly the same act I'd seen in 1977.
Wow.
You know, it still worked. I mean, it's great to act. Had nothing to do with Aladdin. I had no idea what it was doing in the show.
Yeah.
But then they were in Robin Hood and Baby in the Woods, which in Davidson had nothing to do with that either. So, you know, I never did quite work out why they were there.
So when was the first time you played Dame? Can you?
Oh, now that's an interesting question. I think the first time I played Dame was I was doing another show, and Kudos phoned me up.
Yes.
And
okay.
I think it was their summer tour, and I did it for a couple of weeks, and I just took over and did Dame, and then the following year they asked me to do Ugly Sister, and the following year after that they asked me to do Widow 20, so I did it for them 3 years. Oh no, the first year was a bit spiky because I wasn't supposed to be there, so I only did it for about, after the 26-week season, I think I did 2 weeks.
Right.
And then they phoned me back the following year, and I did the whole 26-week season, and then I did the following year, and I did another 26-week season.
Nice.
So I did the whole of the summer Kudos Panto thing to Spain. But management much preferred me as villain. So I tended to do villain. But, as you know, I'm sure I told you this, more or less on Boxing Day, I'm sitting there, you know, eating a mince pie, watching bad TV.
When was this?
And the phone goes, and they want me to do Ugly Sister in wherever it was, Oldham. And I had a day.
When was that?
Oh, about 3 years ago.
Oh, wow.
So, literally, they phoned me up, and they said the Ugly Sisters dropped dead, which was true.
Jesus.
And dropped dead on Boxing Day in the morning at about 7 o'clock. And I was phoned up that day, and of course the travel was hopeless. So I went up the next day. Next day was Tuesday, and I was on stage Wednesday morning.
Wow.
And that was deeply bizarre. And the only way it worked the only way it could work was I said, listen, I'm going to rewrite the whole thing because none of us know what we're doing. I mean, the other both sisters are now missing because the second sister wouldn't do it without the first one.
Wow, okay.
Because he was too traumatized. So they put somebody else in as the second sister who was the stage manager. And I said, so you don't know what you're doing either, do you? And he went, no. I said, right, so let's scrap the script. Let's just get rid of the script because we don't know what it is. You don't know, I don't know. So I'm going to write a new one. And we're going to learn it overnight.
Wow. Okay.
So I wrote a completely new script. We learned it overnight. And we went on at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock next morning, and we pretty much got it right.
Wow.
But we slotted it in to the existing show.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So all the stuff that we did was new, but the how it fitted in with everybody else connected up.
Mm-hmm.
So, you have to be quite careful when you do that. And you make sure that everybody's lines fit, and even if you give a different cue, the lines all work. And then she said, right, I've got, and there was one scene with the Cinderella, and we kept the version that they'd done for about 2 days, and I went, no, I really don't like this. And I said to the Cinderella, look, I'm going to rewrite the scene completely, do you mind? And she went, no. And I rewrote it, and we redid it, and it was much better.
Mm-hmm.
And the singers went, oh, yes. And I said, you just go, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. Just do, react as you normally would. If you've got two mad transvestite people standing in front of you ripping up your ticket to go to a ball, don't go, oh, listen, I'm just going to go and make a cup of cocoa. You need to react properly to this.
Yeah.
And she was fabulous. The girl playing Cinders was just wonderful. And she was a brilliant reactor. She had no lines, but she reacted beautifully. And the whole trick was we gave her the ticket, and we said, right, you can have the ticket, here it is. You can have it if you promise to do anything we ask. You've got the ticket. Have you got the ticket? Yes. You sure the ticket is yours? Yes. You sure you agree to do anything we ask? Yes. Good. Tear it up.
Right.
Only, of course, once you set that up, it's fabulous. Isn't it? The audience is going to scream their heads off.
Yeah.
And I just said, we just play. We just play. There's no dialogue here. This is the setup. We just play. Go for it. Guys, go scream, you scream no, we scream yes, we do all this stuff. We'll do it about 4 or 5 times over 4 or 5 shows, we'll get a shape.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we did. And she said, it's working with you. She said, it's totally terrifying. She said, you just suddenly decide to rewrite an entire scene, but with no dialogue. And I just went, well, you just feel it. Let's see how it goes. Let's just see how it goes. But it was wonderful. And she said it was great. And it did work, And she used to she would literally scream. And we used to tear the ticket out and throw it on the floor, and she would scream.
Wow.
Because she really got into it. We all got seriously into it. And I said, tear it up! All that nonsense. And she was going, no, all that nonsense. It was great.
Yeah.
We loved it. But there was no dialogue.
Wow.
We hadn't any written dialogue down. And I just said, let's just see how it goes.
Mm-hmm. And
I just would say to others, you don't come on until we've said this. And you don't do anything until we've said that.
Right.
And this bit here, we're improvising. And we'll just see how it goes.
Yeah. Nice.
And of course, over, we did 47, 72, 85 performances. Of course it settled down. Of course it stopped being improvised. It became settled.
Yeah.
But we found it within the situation of performance, which is very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And the girl was just like going, oh my God, this is terrifying. She said, you scared the shit out of me. I said, well, of course you do that for fun there.
So I got it.
We literally had 2 days rehearsal. Well, no, we didn't even have 2 days rehearsal. I think I had an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And I don't think poor old Colin had anything at all. Colin came in the next day to play second sister, and he saw me, and he saw the spot which I was doing with the stage manager at that point, who wasn't getting it right. And he came in and he said, yes, I've seen the spot, but that line's wrong, that line's wrong, that line's wrong, that line's wrong. And I said, well, you didn't get them right. He said, nonetheless, the lines are wrong. And then he did the different lines that he wanted to do, and they were much better. And I went, oh no, that's fine. Yeah, absolutely. We'll use those. And then between us, we just went click, click, bing, bing, bong, well, crash. And within 2 days, we were absolutely bang on.
Right.
And if you can imagine that Wednesday they had no one, Thursday I did the first show, Friday Colin came in. By Sunday, we put all the costumes in and everything.
So Colin then was the second ugly sister.
Colin was the second sister. He came in after I did. And we literally revamped the whole thing. And I said, listen, there's no way we can do the costume changes. Despite that, there weren't any costumes because the other sisters had taken them with them and we didn't have any because no one had told us to bring them.
Yeah.
So we came in and we did the first show with whatever costumes we could find. I phoned all my friends up and we kept sending costumes.
Wow.
So all these costumes kept arriving in boxes. And we had loads and loads of boxes. We had loads of costumes by the end. It was rather wonderful. We used to sit there and go, which one do you want to wear today? Jim, which one should we have? And we used to scare people by wearing a totally different one. And we had enormous fun. But by the time we got to Sunday, which is show 6, we had actually put all the costume changes in.
Wow.
Which we'd never rehearsed.
Mm-hmm.
And he would come running up, he'd say, have we got time for a costume change? I went, yeah, I think so. He'd say, well, let's try it and see if we get it right. And we'd run off and put another frock on and run on again. And sometimes we got it right and sometimes we didn't. It was good fun. I mean, he was great. He was a great performer. I love Roger Picola. He was a hoot. Because he'd put gags in. He'd put really good gags in and not tell me. And I would kind of go, and he'd put one in and look at me, and he'd go, are you going to play with this? And I go, okay, I know the tack of this one. I'm fine. So that was the game, really.
So now I've played Dame once. I did, like I was saying to you earlier, I did Bar Humbug. Now,
yeah.
So what would be I'm interested to know your advice. Now, I saw, as part of our research for the show, I got to see the Pantomime documentary, the Pantomime Dame, the one with Terry Scott and Billy Dainty.
Oh, it's a brilliant documentary.
Yeah, I saw that. So the Pantomime Dame then it's man plus woman, right?
You always play a man in a frock.
Right.
You never do a drag queen.
So how is it different from drag, though?
Entirely different from drag. It's entirely different from drag. The audience always must know you're a bloke. It's absolutely vital. Even from the moment you start, the audience know you're a bloke in a frock. You're not a drag queen.
So not a drag queen. So what's the difference between the two? Because that documentary was talking about, I think it was Don Inman was saying drag queens have more glitter.
It's weight.
Weight?
It's about weight. Fundamentally, dames are Abanata in a frock.
Okay.
I mean, that's why dames and villains can swap across. Because you're playing it more or less the same. And you've got that huge voice. You know, I always play it with the voice of a foghorn when I play a game.
Right.
You know, and if some poor bastard gets picked out by me in the audience, his death is imminent. Do you know what I mean? If I look at the audience and go, oh, hello, you're nice, I like you. You come here often. The man's dead. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's a bloke in a dress. And it's a very interesting twist because I'm not sure. If it's too camp, it doesn't work. If it's too butch, it doesn't work.
Right. So
you've got to get the balance right.
It's not female. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say you've got to get the balance right. It is incredibly camp, but in a theatrical way and not in an effeminate way.
So it's not female impersonation then?
No, not really. Okay. And again, that's very difficult to describe. So you can you've walked on stage and somebody said something and you go, oh, you are lovely when you're angry. But he's still a bloke. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know, if it's done like a drag queen, the only drag queens that get away, Lily Savage will get away with it because there is a massively masculine edge to that.
Right.
But it's very tricky with drag queens because if they become too draggy, it becomes really unpleasant.
Okay. Why does it become unpleasant?
Whereas, you know, I just worked with a lovely guy last year who was the most fabulous thing, but very soft edge, very delicate, very lovely, very charming, but worked perfectly. So it's very difficult to pin down as to why dames work.
Right.
Some do, some don't. It's very odd. I think myself that the less aggressive you are, the better.
Okay.
But nonetheless, aggressiveness is very funny.
Right.
You know, if you use it in the right way. And I always do middle-aged, overweight northern women leaning over a garden hedge somewhere in Scunthorpe, talking to their neighbour.
So, like the Les Dawson character.
I bet that's my kind of dame. Others are different.
Yes.
But I mean, Joe last year was so deceptively sweet because he would say dreadful things in this lovely kind of sweet way.
Yeah.
I remember him saying, he said, all times are hard, ladies and gentlemen, times are hard. I mean, look over there, you see that teacher over there? She hasn't got enough money. No, you should see her on a Saturday evening, whacking her undies against the bollards to do the washing. No, you have to take her off first, look. And dreadful things, you know. I was never as rude as Joe was, but Joe's much gentler as a Dane than I was.
Right.
My Dane is much rougher than his, but I wouldn't say he was outrageous. He'd pick on a member of the audience. I mean, I used to do certain things. I mean, I would be in full flood, and I would suddenly go, oh, that lovely jumper, that's nice. I didn't know that retro colour was coming back. You know, and it's just all that nonsense.
Yeah. So am I, if I'm doing it this Christmas, I'm not, but say I am, am I keeping a beard?
Oh, no.
No beard.
No beard. Beards are wrong. Beards are drag queen.
Right. Okay.
Beards are horrible and wrong and never should be allowed.
I'm glad you're on the fence about that.
No, absolutely not. No, I'm deeply indecisive about that point, as you can tell. No, it's wrong. That's drag queen. That's those strange American drag queens with beards.
And so also then, it's not, you know, how do you differentiate the dame from someone who's transgender? I mean, it's not, because it's not satirizing transgender people, right?
No. This is Americans getting it completely fucked up. You are doing a certain kind, and it's actually, Danes are incredibly specific. They actually are a certain kind of northern. Most Danes should be northern.
Okay, Northern
and they
English.
are a certain kind of northern woman who lean over the garden gate approach. I'm not one to gossip. I mean, you know me, I never gossip, but did you hear?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And they're leaning there with the boobs leaning on the garden fence because they're too big.
Mm-hmm.
it's that. I mean, these women have gone now.
Yeah.
These are 1940s, 1930s, 30s women. I don't think the Americans ever had them.
Right.
And they're over endowed and over. I mean, we couldn't get them right now because the similar women now are not less funny, are not as funny, and are not as pleasant. That these women were salt of the earth and actually quite nice.
Yes.
Oh, underneath all that roughness, whereas their equivalents these days are not as nice, and that, of course, is the problem. You get a lot of theatres saying, "Oh no, let's have them played by men," but it doesn't work. You can't say the stuff that you say as a dame.
But you mean dame played by women?
Yeah, you just can't do it. It just sounds horrible,
right?
Because the sexual innuendo. I mean, for example, in Babes in the Wood, I will come running on. At one point, I go, "Do you know it's not even lunchtime? I've got not a sausage brick." And now look at yours and go, "What?" I said, "Well, I tried vegetarian, but it's just not for me." You haven't said anything.
Me?
And you let them do whatever they make up, you see.
Yes. You leave the gap for them to think.
Indeed. And that's what you do all the time with Dame. Dame say the most outrageous things. I remember playing a Dame a couple of years ago, and I looked at the guy and I went, "Hello, Captain. Do you know you haven't lived and tasted the succulence of my apple turnover?" There is nothing wrong in that remark.
Yes.
But
yeah,
we got done for indecency on that line. And I pointed out there was nothing indecent about it.
Yeah, because it's the intention or what you interpret.
It's entirely what you, and therefore the indecency is not in the performer's remit, it's in the audience's.
Yeah.
And I quite like that. And just to I always get a bit done because I write quite racy pantomime, but I never ever write anything that's filthy.
Right.
I write stuff that's just a bit round the edges. My favourite line has always been when somebody comes up to them and goes, "Madam," and she goes, "It was never proved." But it's that quick.
Yes.
If you get it, you get it, and if you don't, you don't.
Yes. So would you say then that the dame is essentially a member of the audience, in that the audience can see they have a friend or they have someone they can connect to on the stage?
She is a friend of the audience.
Yeah.
I mean, I do things like I will come up to them and I go, "You're enjoying this? Oh, yeah. Are you having fun? Do you know, I wish I was sitting there with you. I do, because I don't like being on stage, me. I'm very shy. Do you know I've got the coconuts to prove it?" And that kind of stuff.
Yes.
So you become their mate.
Right.
And sometimes you become their enemy.
Okay.
And you go, now listen, you've got to work here. I'm not having all this. Can you smile? Come on, smile. Smile. So she said, "No, love, don't take him out."
And so what about the makeup? Is it like a woman, or are we talking clown?
No, it's clown.
Got it.
Think clown, much more than woman. Clown, if you talk from the top down, you've got arched eyebrows, you've got a white line under the eyebrows, you've got a blue line under that, then you've got false eyelashes to do the eyes. This is depending on your day. Some days have them, some days don't. The nose has got a red blob on it. i.e. clown. Lips are bigger. There's a red blob on the chin, i.e. clown. Red cheeks. So it's half a clown, half a woman.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes. And you
So
sorry.
And it's much more clowny than woman, really.
Yeah.
That's the difference. And if you are wearing false eyelashes, they have to be big. You know, if I'm going to wear false eyelashes as a dame, then they're silver with dangly bells on or something.
Right.
You know,
yes.
They're not normal. They're not just false eyelashes. Because that turns you into drag queen.
Yeah. And so you change your wig and your costume throughout the show, right?
Every entrance.
Every entrance. Wow.
Every entrance. Every entrance is a different frock, is a different wig.
Why is that?
And different shoes. And even if you are going, you know, here we are on the Himalayas and we've climbed 42 miles and we've got no food, you know, and you've done that at the end of one scene, you've done that another scene, but you're in a completely different outfit.
Right.
And I did that once, and somebody said, "What do you mean? You've changed." I said, "A girl's got standards."
Ha! So why do you change your costume on every entrance?
It's tradition and it's funny.
Got it.
And ideally, you make the costumes as absurd as you can. So each one becomes more absurd than the one before. I mean, when I did this Workington Laugh, when I came on wrecked from the desert island, I had a 6-foot-long blonde wig with a kimono.
What?
So that the wig was a Lady Godiva wig that actually touched the floor.
Wow.
And
you're what, 6'3"?
I'm 6'3".
Right.
It was huge.
Wow.
It was a bloody bugger of a wig. It didn't last. You know, we had, fortunately, it only cost £16, so I had to change it every week. it just didn't last. But it was stunning. So it looked, you would walk on stage and this wig just went all the way down to the ground. And I was in a sea green kimono.
Wow.
And I went, you know, and the gag was, everybody else said, I'm the only one saved from the wreck. I'm the only one saved from the wreck. And I used to come and I said, I'm the only wreck that's been saved. You know, and walk on in this amazing outfit. You know.
Yeah.
And of course, it got a huge laugh. Why wouldn't it? You know.
Right.
Blonde hair right the way down to the ground.
Good visual gag.
It's a good visual gag, you know. And there's a lot. There's a great thing about dames. Dames always say, walk on, show off the frock, walk off.
Show off the frock.
Walk on, show off the frock, walk off. You know.
Yeah.
Because if they get really decent frocks, and then there's the whole question, you know, in the pro show of when the frocks arrive, particularly if the company making them, as to is it right for the scene? What is it that is required in the scene? What are you required to do? Certain scenes require frocks that work. In other words, you have to manoeuvre. Other scenes require frocks that you don't have to manoeuvre, you just stand there.
Right.
So if you've got a standing there frock, you can allow it to be slightly more, shall we say, glamorous or ridiculous. But if it's a working frock, if it's like releasing Robin from Arrows, or if you're doing something sensible, then of course you can't have a frock that's the shape of a washing machine. Do you see what I mean?
I do.
So you have to actually work out when you get these costumes that they don't prevent you from being able to do what you do.
Yes.
But give you the maximum visual stun element, you know.
Yes.
And that's, you know, that doesn't always work out because wardrobe people sometimes come up with some very weird ideas and go, no, I actually can't move in that. But this I can move in, so can you swap them across? You know?
And do you keep your costumes? Do you have a collection of them?
I have a collection of them, yes. I have. in my house, I have all my Dane costumes.
Right.
No, not all of them. Some of them I gave back, which I wish I hadn't.
Right.
There's about 6 of the ugliest costumes I wish I had not given back, because they are fabulous, and I just wish I kept them, but they were huge.
And so
they were enormous.
And so do you then, if you're doing a show and you're playing Dame, do you use your own costumes, or do you rely on a designer?
No, you use your own. You use your own again and again and again. Right. So my rule is, if I'm playing Dame professionally, I would usually buy 2 new ones to add to the collection. So that, I mean, most theatres won't have seen them anyway, so it's not an issue. But here, of course, this is why I only do Dame every 2 years here, because otherwise they see the costumes again and again and again.
In Oxford, you mean?
The amateur lot.
Right.
So with the amateur lot, I buy, again, a new costume every year. But so by the time they see me again as Dane, the costumes appear to be different, but they're not. They're the same, if you see what I mean.
Right.
Because otherwise and of course they always ask me to lend them, so of course the other Danes perform them as well.
Right.
But I tend to mix the wigs up, and so they don't look entirely the same. But there's an amazing thing: a different actor and a different actor in the same frog doesn't look the same.
Interesting.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Same wig, same costume, same layout, same shoes, but a different actor in it. Nobody notices.
Wow.
Fascinating.
And
because I'm much, understandably, I suppose, compared to amateur Danes, I'm much beefier, I'm much umpier, I'm much like, give me an hour, what's that spell stuff. And I mean, the last year's Dane, what did he ask for? Oh, he asked for a song. He asked "Keep Young and Beautiful," and they said, "Well, do you want songs?" Yeah, and I said, "Well, only if you want one. But I tell you what, if we do it, we could do Raining Men."
Right.
Which is, if you see, it's completely different onus.
Yeah.
You know,
new attitude.
So, yeah, it's just me yelling my head off badly.
Yes.
So I'm not a great singer, but I can make a noise. So if me singing "It's Raining Men" at the top of my voice, and what I say is I want girlies with umbrellas, with action men on strings, on all strings with umbrellas. What do you think? I think that would be totally funny.
Oh yeah, that sounds great. That's a very, very good visual.
Yeah. You know, maybe in underpants, or maybe, and you know, that probably might be too much if they're too young. But I just think that would be terribly funny.
Yes,
you know?
I think so.
And I've done a gag I've already put in for this year's Panto, which they've already agreed to, which is we always do a ballet in Act 2.
Oh, which Panto is this?
It doesn't matter. In any Panto, there's always a ballet. In Act
Okay.
2. And they said, "Oh, can we get rid of the ballet because the kids don't like it and they can't do it?" And that's true, they're crap at it. So I said, "All right, this is how it works this year. We do the ballet music. The Dane comes on in the full ballet tutu, sets herself up to go, and somebody else comes on and goes, 'I'm sorry.' We go, 'What? We've cut it.' 'What? We've cut it.' 'What do you mean we've cut it? We've cut it. We've cut it, we've cut it.' I don't know. I go away for 6 weeks to a proper Panto and they've changed everything." And you stomp off. I think that's quite funny.
Yeah, I think so.
Because I love that absurdity.
Yes.
You know, it's you know, last year, the similar gag we did, last time we did the same Panto, was we had the proper ballet, we brought all the kids on, we did the ballet, and then just at the end, we brought in the quarter ballet, and they were all overweight men.
Huh.
In tutus.
Mm-hmm.
Who did, but they learnt the ballet perfectly. They did all the arms and everything, but they were all about 15 stone.
Wow.
It's the only thing they did in the ballet. They were all the stage crew.
Yes.
And they were, even people, we had six of them, and they were all between 15 and 18 stone.
Wow.
It's just terribly funny.
Yes.
Just and they couldn't dance in time, of course.
Right.
And we had this wonderful bit with this girly dancer at the front doing his stuff on point. And she grabbed the arm of the guy in front and put it in the right position. And he kind of stared at her. It was very sweet. So it's a similar idea, really.
Right. And there's a specific costume hire place that you use?
No, I tend to just gather from wherever. eBay is really good. eBay and Amazon are really good. You get really good props from them now. And you look at a frock and you go, yes, that's nice, or no, that isn't, or maybe that's okay. And some we make, some we buy,
right?
Some I hire, some I phone up friends and say if I can borrow something. Mm-hmm. You know, no, I don't use. There's a couple of costume hire places, but they're not always that brilliant.
Okay.
You know, they're a bit. Because, of course, you don't have any of this in America, so you've got none of this.
No.
I have to say, when I did The Mummy, I had two companies in America, whose names I now can't remember, who were absolutely brilliant and sent me almost all the stuff I wanted.
Wow, it's great.
And I had, because you remember The Mummy piece, and I said, look, do you by any chance have any ancient hieroglyphic tablecloths or sheets or anything? And then I said, well, he said, no, we don't, but leave it with me because I'm interested in this, because I'm thinking of getting this from my shop. And he phoned me up 2 days later and said, I found a place in China, they do it, I'm going to order it from my shop, do you want me to order it for you as well? And I went, yeah, absolutely. And he said, it'll be there in a week. It was there the next day.
Wow.
It just arrived. And it cost me £8.
What?
And I phoned him up and I said, it's £8. Are you sure that's right? And he went, well, you help me out. He said, I've got all this extra stuff in my shop now. It's brilliant. And I didn't know where to find it. And you made me look for it. So, no, you know, fine, have it. You're welcome.
Wow.
And I went, oh, my God. And then I phoned up another shop in America and I said, look, I'm looking for Edwardian frock coats and you do them. He said, yes, we do. And I said, well, I'd like 3, please. And he said, if you put our name forward, we'll send you 2, give you 1 free.
Wow.
And I went, fine. So I paid £80, got 3 frock coats within a week. Absolutely brilliant. Perfectly brilliant. And all these people in America are really good.
Yeah.
I love them because they're just really keen and really helpful, and they send you this stuff, and it's perfectly made. The material's not great, you know, it's all made out of polyester or whatever it's made out of.
Yeah.
But it looks right, you know, it looks perfect for stage work.
I mean,
and it's this shop in San Diego that does formal wear. It's all it does. So, for example, if you wanted a dinner jacket entirely in Highland colours, yes, it would do that for you.
It's very niche.
It would make it for you.
Yeah,
but not for much money, £100 or something.
Wow.
And you go, this is extraordinary. It's the one of the things that's caused this is the advent of steampunk.
Yes, that's right.
And because of steampunk, you can get the most outrageous clothing for very little money.
Yeah.
And very well made.
Yeah.
Really well made. Not badly made at all. You know, not cheap or crap. Mm-hmm. But really nice stuff. I've got about 5 brocade coats now. At about £80 each.
Wow.
Of different colours. So, you know, on Halloween, I can literally wander from pub to pub and change colour as I go from venue to venue. Actually do.
So, another thing I wanted to ask you, Michael, we were talking about the Dame. Now, you've also played Ugly Sister, which is essentially like a mean or nasty version of the Dame, right?
It's but this gets more into drag queen area.
Got it. Okay.
This is much nearer drag queen than Dame is. Dame, remember, is mother. Dame is warmer, bigger, rounder. Ugly Sisters are thinner, Not necessarily. I mean, you can have a fat, ugly sister, of course you can. But if you think of the concept, they are not mothers.
Right.
So they have no. The whole Dane issue is the fact that they are desperate to do anything there for their son, stroke, principal boy, whoever it is, and that's where it all goes on. And this is only overridden by the fact that they want to get as many men as possible.
Right.
Now, ugly sister, yes, they still want to get as many men as possible. And would you forgive me? There appears to be somebody at my door. Would you hold for a moment?
Yes.
This marks the end of the second part of my interview with Michael Garland. In the third and final part of my interview, we talk about the difference between Pantomime Dame and the role of the ugly sisters from Cinderella. And also, we talk about the role of the pantomime villain. If you're interested in listening to that interview, you can probably find it on the podcast platform of your choice. Or if not, you can find it on our website, comedyqna.com. That's the word comedy, the letter Q, the letter N, the letter A.com. Thanks very much for listening.